Welcome back. Here's the second video about why things spread. So again, this is about word of mouth. Word of mouth is the key differentiation between digital marketing as a whole and social media marketing in particular. Social media marketing is about producing high quality content that people would like to share and as such be part of word of mouth. It is not mainly about advertising. So in the first video I talked about characteristics of the actual message, Jonah Berger's steps model. In this video I'm going to talk about influentials, both networks and people. Now the first theories I'm going to talk about are those proposed by Malcolm Gladwell in the book The Tipping Point. It is a massive bestseller and a book that I really recommend that you familiarize yourself with. Probably the easiest is to just read the Wikipedia summary, but if you like that, then by all means go and get the full book. It's a good read. Now Gladwell relies heavily on the Pareto principles, which argues that 80% of the work will be done by 20% of the people, or you can say that in marketing terms, 20% of a business products will then stand for 80% of the sales, and these are fairly well-known theories in marketing and business in general. So who are these, according to Gladwell, who are these 20% of the people that have these special networking characteristics? Gladwell refers to these as connectors, mavens, or salespeople. Now before I get to Gladwell's connectors, mavens, or salespeople, have a look at that hyperlink that was on the previous slide. There's a really cool infographic there that looks at, and the article talks about how to identify different types of influences and goes into a lot more categories than what Gladwell looks at. It may be something worthwhile thinking about for your blog, and this infographic that is taken from that article is worthwhile having a little bit of a study of. It provides some certainly useful and in-depth details. Now Gladwell's connectors is referred to as the social glue that spreads messages, and this is based on a long-standing theory about the 6 degrees of separation, which assumes that there is only 6 degrees that separates every human being on the planet. So I know someone that knows someone that knows someone that knows someone, and there will never be more than 6 degrees or 6 people in between of separation between all of us on the planet. LinkedIn is very good at pointing that out. So when it suggests new people that you may want to connect with, it tells you the degrees of separation between that person and yourself. So if you have noticed, have a look at that. Now Gladwell argues that this applies to most of us, but there are a very small number of people that is linked to everyone else in a relatively set of fewer steps, and he refers to a study in his book where he sort of demonstrate that there are such people, although some others have perhaps debunked that myth later. But there are certainly some people that are relatively much better connected than others. Now on social media we often talk about strong ties and weak ties. So the strong ties are those people in our circle of friends that are our actual factual real friends that we talk to online and offline on a regular basis, while the weak ties is this sort of massive catalogue of people that we have met throughout a lifetime, that some we haven't spoken to for 15 years and so forth. These weak ties are actually quite important as acquaintances, because they are the ones that are more likely to provide us with information that we weren't aware of, that is not sitting inside our own little filter bubble of friends, and as such could then potentially provide us with something interesting that we wouldn't have otherwise been exposed to. In a social media context, weak ties enable us to further reach a wider audience. And this is why it's particularly interesting to try to find these connectors that have this large amount of ties, which if we can communicate with them, then we can share the amount of reach that they have. Now here's a couple of examples from Kevin Oloka's TED Talk. It's a link on the next slide, about how connectors contribute to viral campaigns. You may recall the very annoying Rebecca Black Friday YouTube video that was posted much earlier than the time where it went viral. So it was sitting there idle on YouTube for a while until Michael Nilsson, this American comedian with 19,000 Twitter followers, tweeted about it on a Friday, and that went out to all his followers, that then went out to their followers and their followers and their followers, and boom, you had that viral effect through a connector. And here's the link to Kevin Oloka's YouTube video if you want to see a few more examples. So this was Jimmy Kimmel that tweeted about Yosemite Beer's Double Rainbow video, which is one of the most viewed videos on YouTube. It's just a stupid video, but it wasn't until Jimmy Kimmel, with his millions of followers on social media or on Twitter, tweeted about it. Boom, there you go. The connector then spread that message out to a large amount of his followers, that went to their followers, and so on. Now, Mavens are a particular type of people that Gladwell talks about, that are your typical shopping experts. So these are people that like to write product reviews, review products for the sake of it. They get a kick out of helping others, helping to spread information about products and about shopping. So these are typical people that you find contributing to choice.com.au, for example, or it could be those that have signed up as buzz agents. If you don't know what buzz agents are, then have a look at the buzz agent website. Perhaps you have a Maven characteristic in you and you want to test products, write reviews, and as such you can join the Buzz Agent program. These are people that you typically find on product discussion forums or other types of review sites. You may find also Mavens making heaps of contribution to sites such as TripAdvisor. Salespeople are a bit different from your Mavens and your connectors in that they are people that particularly would try to persuade you and motivate you to take actions. Bloggers are known to be more influential than celebrities and social networks because they have that level of expertise, and it means that we trust them more. Just because a celebrity promotes a product doesn't mean that that celebrity actually knows what they're talking about, but someone that writes an in-depth blog and review of a product, perceived to be an expert in that area, is more likely to be trusted, and are also one of the most trusted sources after retail stores and brand sites, but before Facebook. So there's heaps of links to articles in this slide that you can have a look at, that looks at how bloggers are perceived. Of course, there's a two-edged sword of using bloggers as brand ambassadors, and there's a huge debate still going on in by practitioners and by academics on to what extent it's good for a blogger to disclose that they have received a free sample, for example, and whether or not they are promoting this product because they actually think it's good or just because they got it for free. Now, there are tools that we can use to identify influencers. Creed and Brandwatch are a few examples of that, and you can then find people and they will give you a score they will tell you to what extent through their social media connections, for example, they influence others. There's an example on the slide here of a particular person that may not be the best influencer, but you can go in there and play with the tool and see if you can find someone that potentially is a better influencer or a better salesperson than the one in the example. A few alternative ideas. Seth Godin, you absolutely must know who he is, and you must know some of the basics of his arguments. If you want to work as a marketer, then that is an absolute must. His work and some of his earlier work and his best-selling books about the purple cows, which is called Purple Cow, is where he talks about the importance of producing something that is remarkable and the level of remarkability. In his later work, such as his book that came out last year that's called This Is Marketing, he's talking a lot about how the days that we can make products that are for everyone are over. You do not make a product that's for everyone. You target an audience that is interested in your product, and you target an audience that will actually find your product to be remarkable. It is ineffective to try to reach people that have no interest in your product. So you need to find out who wants to buy my product and how can I communicate directly with those audiences. Kevin Oloka and his work on tastemakers and communities of participation. It's something that is also worth to have a look at. There's a link to a video here. I know I'm giving you a lot of information, but you know, it's worth having a quick look, save it as a bookmark, and come back to it later. Different types of campaigns will be more suited for different types of influencers, and this reverse pyramid model here is a good way to look at that. So celebrities obviously will have large reach, but as I've talked about in this video, there's limitations to what sort of information a celebrity will spread and to what extent people will actually find that trustworthy and listen to it. So the most influential ones that are put down here: co-workers, girlfriends, and then your mom at the bottom, more influential and someone that you would listen to more. And as such, we need to assess these levels of influences, the reach that they have, and the likelihood of them influencing the person and the target audience that you would like to reach. And all of this, the decisions that you make, will depend on the product that you have and who you want to target and who you want to reach, and how you're actually going to get a return on your investment at the end of the day. So here's a few examples for you that you can have a look at. Why did these campaigns become viral? Perhaps this can be a good topic for you writing a blog post. This campaign here from Lufthansa, super interesting campaign. Just have a look at it, and you may want to write a blog post about it and try to analyze why it went viral based on these theories that we've talked about. And this is a rather controversial one that created a lot of negative publicity around it. It is actually a fake campaign that was just made from a marketing agency to show how great they were in creating viral content, although the reality is that they have copied this exact approach from a campaign, a really failed campaign from Tourism Denmark, where they tried exactly this approach to try to get more tourists to come to Denmark, and yeah, it flopped and they had to pull it. And here's another example of an award-winning marketing campaign, or it wasn't really a campaign, it was just a tweet. There was a power outage at the American Super Bowl. So there's the context. There was no image on the television screen, so people turned to their phone. So there's the trigger, and then Oreo sent us this tweet: "You can still dunk in the dark." So it's innovative. It's a remarkable idea. It provides that social currency when you share it, and it probably also triggered a lot of emotions in there. And you may also argue that to some extent it is a story, or at least the start of a story. 16,000 retweets, won several awards. However, in week 12, I will, through Mark Ritson, pluck this apart and say maybe it wasn't as good as we think it was. Now, I want to leave you with a little word of caution here. Only 5% of YouTube videos are responsible for almost half of the reach, and these are not unique findings from YouTube as a social media. The bottom line here is that if you really want to reach a large number of a large audience, you need to pay for it, and that goes across any social media platform. Organic reach and assuming that you're going to reach millions of people just by just organically, without actually paying to boost your messages, those days are over. The algorithms of all the social media platforms have changed, so you need to be prepared to spend a little bit of money in order to get any substantial reach. Now, what videos get a lot of reach on social media depends on the number of contacts and the size of those networks, as is explained in this short video from the Ernberg Bass Institute. So have a look at that. But you know, that just means that we need to look at these theories that I've talked about in this video, and we need to understand that there are such things as connectors and salespeople and mavens that needs to be taken into account if we want to reach a large audience.